Good morning, guys. Hope you're doing well. This is Professor Street Money, and we're on poem number 3 of our poetry unit. Hopefully, you're enjoying it okay. Hopefully, you're not finding it too hard. Remember, poetry is all about making concrete things out of the abstract, like feelings, descriptions, concepts, that type of thing. We are starting today with a free verse poem again, but this poem you have to count syllables. So we do have a rhythm to it, but we still don't have rhyme. We are going to write a haiku. Haiku is a traditional Japanese style of poetry, usually just 3 lines of 5 syllables, 7 syllables, 5 syllables, and usually about nature. There are some formatting things that we'll get into as well. Remember, as always, there's an example sheet, and everything I'm covering, well, not everything. Everything I cover, yes, is indeed on Moodle, but not everything is on Moodle that I'm saying to you today, so that's why you need to watch this. If you've done haikus before, make sure to listen carefully, because the version we're doing is a more extended version of it. So let's look at the appearance, the criteria for a haiku. First of all, this will be our first poem that has a title. So we have a title above our stanzas. I would not overthink the title, guys. Usually just come up with a concept. The title should make sense, certainly. Doesn't have to be clever necessarily. I'll show you some examples from the poems on Moodle, but you do need a title. Then the version of haiku we are reading and writing is a 3-stanza haiku. Now why? Because traditional haiku are only 1 stanza. You can't say much in 1 stanza of 17 syllables. So we are writing this extended version that we have a little more opportunity to say something. But especially, guys, in this haiku, remember we talked about poetic license when we first introduced our unit, when I wore the t-shirt and I wore the tie and said it wasn't traditional or necessarily correct, but it was some freedom that I was allowed. That's what poetic license is, and you will pretty much have to use poetic license in our haiku. That means, since you're counting syllables, your grammar might be a little off. Now, the poem should still make sense, certainly, but grammatically, it's not going to be perfect. Let's look at a couple of the examples. First of all, the first one on your Moodle page talks about plum orchard. That's the traditional one. Talks about roaring waterfall and being in the plum orchard, etc. Not really my style. Nature poems sometimes not my deal. But you could write this one about nature if you prefer. But as you will find as we go through our poetry unit, it's usually less painful and more interesting, and makes for a better poem if you write about something you actually care about or you enjoy. Let's look at the second example on the Moodle page. This one they titled Wildcats. And they wrote, playful kittens pounce, batting the air with small paws, butterflies float by. They stalk through the grass, seeking unsuspecting prey like jungle lions. They curl in my lap, forming a ball of warm fur, purring without care. Now, if you will notice the setup, guys, we have the 3 stanzas. Notice how the first line of each stanza is all the way to the margin. The second line is indented a little bit. The third is indented even further. And we do have punctuation there. We have periods at the end. We have commas where needed. And does it tell a story? A little bit. Not really. Again, 3 17-syllable stanzas. We're not going to get much out of that. But we are dealing with something kind of ironic here, because they talk about kittens and they call them wildcats, compare them to lions, etc. So hopefully you get the idea there. Let's look at the third one. This is a really good example of students writing about what they enjoy. This is written by a soccer player, and he called it Fight to the Finish. A little dramatic, and a little humorous as well as we read through this. The first stanza says, soccer field at dawn. The sun glows off the wet grass. Air is crisp and cool. Opponents face off like gladiators of old. The battle begins. The fight rages on. The fans alive scream for blood. One team wins it all. So again, tells a little bit of a story, not complete details. It's a short 9-line poem, 3 stanzas. So if you look at the grammar, you will see air is crisp and cool. We usually have an article there. That's poetic license. We don't say the air is crisp and cool because that would be too many syllables. Air is crisp and cool. Not the, because that line needs to be 5. Remember when we talked about how we determine syllables? You can't just go with what you think, especially not on this poem, guys, because unfortunately, as I read through these, if a line stands out and I'm thinking, that doesn't sound right, the rhythm seems to be off, I will have to go through and count them, and oops, 6 syllables in that line. It's supposed to be 5, 7, 5. So what you're going to do for your assignment, you're going to write 1 haiku of 3 stanzas, 3 lines per stanza. So you're going to have actually 9 total lines. You do need a title. Pay attention to the indenting. Format is very important on this. You don't have to write about nature. In fact, I would go with something that you prefer. If you like horseback riding, if you like swim, if you're a football player, write about your sport, write about anything else, something that you're interested in. Make sure you count the syllables, because you will not get full credit if you don't have 5, 7, 5 per stanza. Why? Because a haiku by definition is 5, 7, 5. So we need to make sure we count those syllables. Again, how do we determine syllables? We look up, we use an online dictionary, we find the site that has the words divided into syllables. So be super careful. As we said in the intro, there are a number of words that seem like they should be like 3 syllables, but they're really 4. We can't go just on pronunciation because we all pronounce things differently, and we have to go with the dictionary gauge of how many syllables are per word. Okay? So this will be due by Thursday night at midnight, and as all our poems will be, guys, you will read your poem on Flipgrid. You will submit the hard copy of your poem on Moodle. Again, title, 3 stanzas, 3 lines per stanza, 5, 7, 5. As always, send me an email if you have any questions. Hope you guys are having a good day. Guys, hang on. We're almost to the end. You've been doing great. I'm really proud of you. Have a good day. And sorry, Thor's getting ready to bark here. And remember, as always, you were blessed to be a blessing. Adios.